My mother's endless doubt and harsh words nearly broke me, yet those wounds became my strength. When a major publisher finally agreed to publish my novel, I am a 26-year-old female writer and have been trying to get my novel published for 3 years now. I've been working on it ever since I was 19 and finally finished writing when I was 23. In the meantime, I graduated as a literature major and also got a job at an advertising company. It doesn't pay much, but I'm okay with that because I know my novel is going to make it all worth it in the end. The only issue is my mother. My 48-year-old mother absolutely hates that I chose to pursue writing as a career because of how unstable it is. She grew up poor, so money means a lot to her. She's never approved of my decision to major in literature because she thought it was a pointless degree. We had many fights about it before my dad was finally able to convince her. Unfortunately, he passed away 2 years ago from a sudden heart attack, and now I have nobody on my side when it comes to my mother. It's been tough. I have to visit her for dinner every Wednesday, and every single week, without fail, she reminds me that I need to start looking for better paying jobs and quit all this writing nonsense because it'll never work out for me. For a while, it honestly seemed true because I was getting nothing but rejection letters from publishers about my novel. So, a month ago, I sent out one final draft of my novel once again. I'd made up my mind that if it didn't work out this time, I'd stop working on this novel altogether and focus entirely on finding a better job. Besides, I didn't think I could keep listening to my mother's complaints about how I was wasting my life and all the money she and my dad had put into my education on this dead-end job and my pointless novel. It really got under my skin that she had almost no faith in me and my talent, and it hurt no matter how much I tried to brush it off as concern. That's why I concluded that if I still got rejected this time, I'd be done with it once and for all. However, as fate would have it, 3 days ago, I received an email and a call from a publisher known for my genre of books and stories. They told me they loved my book and were willing to publish it. I was on cloud 9 when I heard back from them and couldn't believe this was finally happening. I'd waited almost 3 years to hear some positive news while working hard at a job I had no interest in just to make ends meet. This was a huge victory for me. The very next day, I was supposed to meet my mom for dinner, and I decided to keep this news under wraps so I could surprise her. I was excited to tell her because she'd been hounding me for years about doing something better with my life since my writing gig would apparently never work out. This would finally put an end to all of that. We had dinner, and it was a little quieter than usual because, for some reason, she wasn't picking on my career choices like she usually did. I didn't think much of it. After we were done, I thought it was finally time to share the big news. I was quite nervous, but somehow managed to blurt out that I had life-altering news to tell her. Before I could say anything more, though, my mom turned to me and said she already knew whatever I was about to tell her and had something more important to discuss that threw me off, since I didn't know how she'd found out about my big news. Then she went into her room and brought out an unopened letter from the publishers I'd heard from. I'd probably accidentally used my old address, which is why the letter had been sent to her instead of me. It hadn't been opened yet, so I knew there was no way she could know what I was about to tell her. I just continued staring at her in confusion. She went on to say she didn't need to open the letter to know its contents, since she already knew my manuscript had been rejected yet again. I could feel my heart drop the second she said that, because it confirmed my belief that she really didn't have any faith in me. It was simply the worst feeling ever. She continued talking and said she assumed my big news was that I was quitting my job to focus on writing full-time to finally get published somewhere. She said she wouldn't stand for that at all and wouldn't support me for the rest of my life. If I wanted to quit my job, I'd be on my own since she wasn't going to encourage this nonsense anymore. I don't know where she got that idea because I'd never said or even hinted at that. She just assumed the worst of me. Even if I had hypothetically quit my job, I would still not ask my mother for help. I hadn't asked her for help even once in these past few years, and neither had she offered it. I was at a loss for words and didn't know how to react to what she was saying, so I just sat through her rant without saying a word. She went on to say she'd had enough of me treating my life as a joke and that if I didn't clean up my act, she'd be forced to cut me out of her life because she couldn't bring herself to see me bringing about my own decline. That was when I finally managed to come up with something to say. In a fit of anger, I told her she didn't need to bother with me anymore and that I would be cutting her out of my life now. She looked taken aback because, so far, I'd never really said anything when she'd start talking about my job. I never had anything to defend myself with since the cards really were stacked against me. I did work at a job with no future and was making way less than others my age. I was just scraping by, yet I was only focused on writing a novel that seemed to be leading nowhere. I couldn't argue with my mother because on some level she was right. It did sting, though, that instead of trying to uplift and encourage me to chase my dreams, she constantly reminded me of my shortcomings and demanded I give up on something I'd worked so hard toward. I couldn't imagine any other parent doing this to their own child. The thing she said about supporting me really rubbed me the wrong way because, as far as I'm concerned, she's never supported me, let alone financially. She's never even supported me mentally, and in fact has always done her best to bring me down and discourage me from doing what I want. So even if she did cut me off, it really wouldn't make much difference to me and would probably improve my mental health. That's why I told her I'd be cutting her off now. But I knew I had to let her know the big news I wanted to share and make sure she knew she was wrong. I wasn't as talentless as she believed, and I knew what I was doing. So I opened the letter that had come in the mail, shoved it toward her, and told her to read it. The publishers who approved my manuscript were really reputable, so I knew this letter would be a total slap in the face for my mother. I was right. Her expression soured as she read the letter, and it was incredibly satisfying to see. She took a few seconds and then pasted a phony smile on her face. I could tell this was tough for her. Then she tried to congratulate, and told me to forget whatever she'd said so far, even daring to say she'd always known I had it in me. I was so pissed off by the whole act that I told her not to bother pretending she was pleased and left while she tried to stop me. I was furious that day and haven't spoken to her since, even though she called me several times, but I just let it ring. She even sent me a message saying she was just trying to look out for me and was sorry for upsetting me. When I didn't respond to her calls, she said she took back everything she told me that day and wanted me to forgive her since it only came from a place of concern. She wasn't trying to make me feel ashamed of my choices. However, she's only ever made me feel small and shameful about what I do, and has never once tried to say a positive word or uplift me when I'm down. So I don't feel particularly forgiving right now and have no intention of getting back to her anytime soon. It's been years of her telling me my writing talent will never get me anywhere. And it really hurts to know your own mother doesn't think you're worth anything. It totally messed up my sense of worth and self-esteem, which is why I don't think I want to forgive her or even speak to her right now. So I ask, am I the bad guy for not wanting to forgive my mother after she kept criticizing my career choices for years? Update 1. It's been 4 days since I last spoke to my mother. I told her in a text that I appreciated her attempts to apologize, but after all that had happened, I needed time away from her. She said she understood, so we haven't spoken in a while now, and it's been weird. I felt particularly lonely tonight and was about to dress up and head to my mother's place since all my friends were either partying or busy with their partners or kids, but then I remembered we weren't speaking right now. I know I was the one who asked for space, but now I'm the one who feels lonely. I've been trying to keep myself distracted, but now that I've quit my job and the contract meeting with my publishers isn't for another week, I've got nothing much going on. Maybe I'll just text my mom and talk things through with her today or tomorrow. Update 2. So, I spoke to my mother, and as much as I wished I could say we worked things out and it's all fine now, it's not. In fact, things might have gotten worse from when we started, and the sad thing is I can't even blame her entirely. I went to her house last evening, and she was pretty welcoming and trying to be nice, probably attempting to make up for what she'd said. I was also feeling a little more open to her apologies because I thought about my mother's perspective. She wasn't wrong to worry about me. Maybe she could have been less harsh, but at the end of the day, she grew up poor and faced many hardships to get to where she is today. She simply didn't want me to go through the same thing she had to. She'd always tried to teach me the importance of being independent, especially as a woman, and had set a great example herself. She was the managing director of a company, and I knew how hard she'd worked to get there. I respected her for it. In fact, part of the reason I refused to borrow money from anyone, including my mother, was that she was so headstrong that it inspired me to work the same way and make whatever sacrifices I needed to be successful. So, whatever happens between us on a personal level, I'll always respect my mother for who she is as a person. Anyway, once we got to talking, she apologized for being so hard on me. I told her it was fine since she was just trying to look out for me. She could have been kinder about it, but she'd always been the tough love kind of parent. She said she was sorry about that and promised to be more empathetic from now on, which was sweet. After that, though, she said something about how skeptical she was that someone would actually publish my work, which is why she assumed it was bad news in the letter. That led to this entire fiasco. I was put off by her saying she was skeptical about someone wanting to publish what I'd written and asked what she meant because it didn't sound like a compliment. She got really uncomfortable and tried to evade the question, but I pressed on. She finally admitted she didn't think I was a good writer. She thought my work wasn't captivating, and even my language was hard to understand. I was absolutely devastated at that moment because this was my own mother telling me she didn't like the work I'd put my heart and soul into. Whenever I'd asked her how she liked what I'd written, she'd always been vague and just said it was nice. All this time, I thought she genuinely felt my work was good but didn't hype it up to keep me grounded. As it turns out, she just didn't like it and was trying to spare my feelings. I know everyone, including my mom, is allowed to have their personal opinion, and it's fine for them to not like what I write. But I'm not going to lie, this just sucks. The fact that not even my own mother likes my work makes me very skeptical about my future as an author. I was obviously hurt by what she said and couldn't be bothered to hide it since I felt like she was insulting me all over again. She told me she was happy to see me succeed and that maybe it was just her personal opinion, which probably wouldn't be shared by others, so I didn't need to worry. But that did nothing for me. The damage had already been done. Even though I'm embarrassed about it now, I was pretty hysterical in the aftermath of what she said. I was sobbing hard and kept accusing her of being an awful mother who couldn't even support her own daughter. She tried her best to pacify me and take back her words, but of course, there's no way she could take back what she said. I was too upset to pay attention to what she was saying. I cried for about 15 minutes while she tried to calm me down. As soon as I was able to compose myself, I ran out of the house and drove home. As soon as I got back, I broke into tears again because I was honestly shattered that my mother didn't like my work. I think I might have cried myself to sleep and woke up at around midnight, all cried out. My mother had sent me several texts in the meantime, trying to take back her words and apologize for what she'd said. She'd even called me 12 times, but my phone was on silent and I slept through it all. It's been hours since then, and she's still been sending me texts to make up for what she said, but I'm incredibly hurt. I thought about everything that's happened long and hard. While I do think what she said was hurtful, I don't exactly blame her right now. I was pretty torn up about it and accused her of a lot when I was crying, but I don't know how to feel anymore. To dislike my work is one thing, but to say it to my face while I'm banking on this novel to save me from going back to another dead-end job, that's just mean. I don't know what to say to my mother right now. Truth be told, I don't think I have anything to say to her anymore. I don't hate her or anything and never will, but this is just hard to deal with, and I can't do this right now. Like I said earlier, I quit my job at the advertising company for something better, so I'm a mess right now, and I don't need this. Update 3. It's been 3 days since I visited my mother, and she told me she didn't like my work. We haven't spoken in person yet, but yesterday I did answer when she called me really late at night. I hadn't checked her messages at all because I just wanted to stay away from everything related to her to forget what she'd said and pretend it never happened. She tried to apologize on the call, but I told her to cut it out since I wasn't in the mood to discuss something so heavy right now. So we stuck to casual small talk. I told her I'd quit my job a few days back and was looking for better ones since now I could finally devote more time to working, now that I had a definite answer about what was going to happen to my novel. Hopefully it'll get published and sell well. Then I'd be able to switch to writing full-time. But until then, I needed a better job. I'd already landed an interview for a writer position at a magazine, so it'd be a pretty busy week. First, I'd have my meeting with the publishers about my contract, and then 2 days after that, I'd have my interview. My mother offered to help me out with money for the time being, but I declined, not just because of the tense situation, but also because, thankfully, I had some money saved and it would last me at least a few weeks if I spent it frugally, which wasn't difficult for me because I'm not much of a spendthrift anyway. She was rather awkward and uncomfortable the entire time, so eventually I just told her I wanted to go to sleep so we could hang up and end this miserable conversation. I'm still really upset, and I can't seem to get what she said out of my head. I don't know if I'm being overly sensitive, but it's just tough for me right now. Maybe I'll feel better once I have something to work on, but I hardly think that's going to fix my relationship with my mother. This was the woman I'd looked up to my entire life and always tried to win her approval, but nothing I ever did was good enough. Now, I don't think anything is ever going to cut it. I understand my mother pinned a lot of hopes on me and wanted me to be an even bigger success story than her, but I don't think she even believes I can achieve anything at all, and that's something I just cannot accept. I don't want to make her out to be an evil mother. It's just a complicated situation, and I'm not sure if I'm up for dealing with this right now. I'm just so tired of everything. Update 4. My mother came by this morning, and I was kind of shocked to see her because, after last night's dead conversation, I wasn't expecting things to be fixed so soon. I invited her in, and needless to say, the atmosphere was really tense and weird. I decided to make her some coffee so I could stay in the kitchen by myself and compose myself before we talked about anything. I took my time, but obviously I had to go out eventually. When I did, I was shocked to see my mother silently crying on the couch. It felt weird walking in on something like that, and I felt like I was intruding. I told her I had coffee for her, but she still couldn't stop her tears. So I sat beside her and hugged her for several minutes while she cried and apologized to me over and over again. She said she'd been a terrible mother to me and had been so caught up in trying to control my life that she'd forgotten to be a good mom. She was terribly apologetic about it. She told me to take her opinion about my work lightly because, as she herself said, she wasn't a reader, so her opinion doesn't count anyway. She also added that she loved me more than anything in the world, and knowing she'd caused me so much pain throughout the years was eating away at her. She desperately needed to fix things with me. We cried a lot, and there were way too many apologies to even count. The bottom line is we decided to try therapy to have a healthier relationship. Weekly dinners mean nothing if we don't actually try to resolve the bitterness and resentment, and this is definitely our healthiest bet right now to deal with whatever we're feeling. So, that's one thing out of the way, and honestly, after that heartfelt conversation with my mom, I'm feeling a lot better already. I'm more hopeful about the future, and now I can't wait to finalize my book deal and get that job I've been waiting for. Life seems to be on track for me right now, and I couldn't be happier about it. Update 5. It's been a couple of weeks since that emotional reconciliation with my mom, and things have started to shift in ways I didn't expect. The therapy sessions we agreed on kicked off last week. Our first one was awkward, to say the least. We sat in this cozy office with a therapist named Dr. Elena, who has this calm, no-nonsense vibe that somehow makes you want to spill everything. Mom started by admitting how her own fears from growing up poor had turned her into this overprotective, sometimes critical parent. She talked about losing Dad and how that amplified her anxiety about me failing or struggling financially. It was hard to hear, but it humanized her in a way I'd forgotten. I shared my side too, how her constant doubts made me question my worth, especially as a writer chasing what felt like an impossible dream. Dr. Elena guided us through some exercises, like listing out positive affirmations for each other. Mom said she was proud of my persistence, and I told her I admired her strength. We left with homework, to journal about one good memory from my childhood each day. It's small, but it's a start. Meanwhile, my book deal is moving forward. I had the contract meeting with the publishers, and it went smoother than I imagined. They loved my vision for the story, a fantasy epic with themes of resilience and family bonds, ironically enough, and we're aiming for a release in 6 months. They've even connected me with an editor who's giving me feedback to polish the manuscript. It's exciting but overwhelming too. I've been spending mornings revising chapters, drawing from my real-life experiences to add more depth to the characters' relationships. As for the job interview at the magazine, I nailed it. They offered me a position as a freelance contributor, focusing on book reviews and creative writing pieces. It's not full-time yet, but it pays better than my old advertising gig, and it aligns perfectly with my passion. I start next week, which means my days are filling up fast. No more endless free time to wallow in loneliness. Now it's all about balancing writing, work, and mending family ties. Mom and I have skipped the weekly dinners for now, opting for shorter coffee meetups instead. Last one was nice. We talked about neutral stuff like her work projects and my upcoming edits. No fights, just tentative steps forward. I'm starting to see that forgiveness isn't a one-time thing, it's ongoing. Some days I still feel the sting of her past words, but therapy is helping me process it without letting it define me. Update 6. Another month has flown by, and wow, life is picking up speed. The book is in full editing mode now, and my editor Sarah is a gem. She's pushing me to expand on certain plot points, like the protagonist's strained relationship with her mentor figure, which, let's be real, mirrors my dynamic with Mom a bit too closely. I've added new scenes that delve into forgiveness and misunderstanding, pulling from our recent therapy breakthroughs. It's therapeutic in itself, turning pain into pages. Sales projections from the publisher are optimistic. They've even teased a small marketing budget for online promo. I'm dreaming big, maybe a book tour or podcast interviews. On the job front, the magazine gig is thriving. I've published 2 articles already, one reviewing a debut novel that reminded me of my own journey. The feedback has been positive, and they're talking about making it a regular column. Financially, things are stabilizing. My savings are holding up, and with the advance from the book deal coming soon, I feel less precarious. Mom and I have had 3 more therapy sessions, and they're getting deeper. Last one, we tackled the big stuff, her skepticism about my writing. She confessed that her tough love was really fear disguised as advice. Stemming from her own unfulfilled dreams, she wanted to be an artist but chose stability instead. It hurt to hear, but it explained so much. I opened up about how her words made me doubt my talent even after the acceptance letter. We cried again, but it felt cleansing. Dr. Elena suggested we try a joint activity outside therapy, so we signed up for a weekend writing workshop. Mom's not a writer, but she's game to learn journaling techniques. It's our way of building new memories. Surprisingly, she started reading my manuscript drafts, not the whole thing yet, but chapters here and there. Her feedback is constructive now, like suggesting clearer dialogue in tense scenes. It's a far cry from her old dismissals, and it means the world. I've even invited her to my first magazine event next month, a panel on emerging authors. She said yes without hesitation. Loneliness still creeps in sometimes, especially on quiet nights, but I've been reaching out to friends, joining a local writers group. It's helping me build a support network beyond family. Overall, I'm optimistic. The novel's on track, work is fulfilling, and Mom and I are rewriting our story, one session, one page at a time. Update 7, fast forward 3 months, and the book's launch is just around the corner. Galleys are out to reviewers, and early buzz is building on social media. Some influencers in my genre are raving about the emotional depth. I've been busy with promo, interviews, a blog tour, and even a Reddit AMA. It's exhausting but exhilarating. The magazine job has evolved. They've promoted me to a staff writer role with benefits. I'm covering literature beats full-time now, which lets me network with other authors. Financially, I'm secure for the first time in years. No more scraping by. Therapy with Mom is ongoing, but we've graduated to bi-weekly sessions. We've made huge strides. She apologizes less defensively now, and I express my needs without anger. We did that writing workshop, and it was a turning point. Mom shared a short story from her youth, vulnerable and raw. It inspired me to dedicate the book to her and Dad. She's planning a small launch party at her house, inviting family and friends. It's her way of showing support publicly. We've had heartfelt talks about the future, her retirement dreams, my aspirations for a sequel. The resentment is fading, replaced by mutual respect. I still have off days, questioning if I'll ever fully heal from the past criticisms, but progress is evident. Life feels balanced, career, soaring, family healing. Who knew one acceptance letter could spark such transformation? I'm grateful and ready for whatever comes next.